What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to a new adventure where I'm going downhill mountain biking at Mountain Creek in New Jersey for my first time ever, and it rained. First lift, it's wet. We are literally the only ones on the mountain because nobody's out because it was supposed to be really bad rain and lightning.
We can make a movie with that.
It's really foggy out. We don't have that nice view. So I just bought some Trek mountain bikes for my family, but my Marlin 7 still hasn't arrived. I've been seeing all these great downhill mountain biking videos on YouTube, and I know the Marlin 7 is a downhill mountain bike, but you guys have been getting me pumped up. But the problem is that nothing is from the perspective of a first-time downhiller who hasn't really ridden a bike in over 20 years and happened to pick a day where it was raining. So you're seeing right now my second run down here in these wooden walls here. I'm barely hitting them because on my first run I was really pumped up. I wish I was taping it, but I wasn't. And the first one I hit a little bit, I was up on it. The second one I went a little higher. And the third one I went for it. But wet wooden walls are a little bit slippery. So when I went up that one, my bike just slid out on me. I smashed into the wall and the bike and I just slid down, and that was kind of the start to the day. So I'm going to let you guys watch some of this video in the background while I give a little bit of a review of the Mountain Creek downhill bike park that we were at. So for me, you know, like I said, I hadn't really ridden a bike in a while, but you know, we were going hard when I was a kid. I loved BMX, I loved going on jumps. But being a kid and being 40 years old now is a little bit of a different story. But let me give you a review of the park and what you guys can expect. Right now we're going down some of the green trails, which are the easy trails. But to start the whole thing off, my friends and I decided to go. We picked a date and we booked early in advance because the rental bikes can actually get booked up. So we went online, we paid for those bikes. Along with paying for the rental bike, you need to pay for your lift ticket. So the rental comes with the bike, which is a full suspension bike. It comes with a full face helmet, which you have to wear while you're on the mountain, elbow pads and knee pads. And then when you're booking it online, it's a little bit confusing. So pick your bike rental, go to checkout, and then from there you can pick a discounted lift ticket. Otherwise, if you pick the lift ticket and the rental, you're going to pay, I don't know, it was like $5 or $10 more, I think, for the lift ticket. So total with tax and everything, it was around $160 for the day, because that rental is definitely up there in price. So it's not cheap, but it's definitely worth it, especially if you can last the whole day. We lasted about, I think, 5 or 6 hours, which was probably about 2 hours longer than we should have been there, which you'll see as we keep riding. But it was a great day. These green trails that you're seeing are just a lot of fun. The one thing is that you got to be ready for it being really bumpy. So even though you have a full suspension bike, when you get up some speed and you're going over some of these different different terrain, it gets crazy. So I mean, the whole handlebars are shaking. And if you guys watch my videos, you guys have seen that I do ride my Polaris ATV. Ooh, this is my buddy. So my buddy decided to go over on a black diamond here, and as you can see, he did not have enough speed. He should not have been there. But so everybody out there knows, we weren't in anybody's way at this point. It was early in the morning, and there was nobody at the mountain. We were literally the only ones on the mountain for a good first hour because of the rain. So it's not, you don't actually see the rain coming down now, but it was raining on and off, and you will see the trip. So back to the rental and everything going on with Mountain Creek. When you get there, you need to park across the street. You walk across a bridge to come over, and you need to go into the main lodge area. So the signs weren't exactly clear when I got there, so I kind of walked around back, and everything going on with COVID-19 and the new rules there. I had to kind of walk through an area that absolutely nobody was around. When you do get there, my buddy called. We went on a Saturday, and it says that the park opens at 9, but the rental area actually opens at 8 a.m. So we were able to get there early. The store's open. You go into the store to get your lift pass, and then you go over to the rental area and you get your rental. And I cannot say enough great things about the staff there. The staff is super nice. So there was a young lady in the store who was very nice about the lift ticket. When we went over to the group that was doing the rentals, there was two guys there that, they were laughing at our bad jokes while we were getting ready. We're getting our helmets on and stuff and asking for bikes. And, I had to make sure. I said, hey, can you guys make sure that I have a bike with the suspension ready for, a little bit of a heavier guy, because I weigh about 215 pounds right now. They were kind of laughing, but yeah, they had that bike set for us. And here you'll see we're actually hitting one of the blue, one of the blue squares here, which is a medium grade trail, but it's not a technical trail, so I'll get into that a little bit later. But you'll see that here the banks are a little bit higher. You can definitely get a lot more speed. There's areas that you can jump off. We weren't really jumping off of them too crazy like we saw people later on, but it was a lot of fun. And this blue square really wasn't that bad. Some of the other videos actually talk about how the blue trails here are crazy, and we actually hit some of those, which you'll see a little bit later on. So other than the staff in the store and at the rental, there was a guy working the lift that was super nice. Every time we came down, he was giving us recommendations. We told him that it was our first time there, and he was giving us recommended trails to check out. We just had a really great time, and that guy was super nice too. So I can't say enough great things about the staff at Mountain Creek. I think the booking process was really easy. For us, it's easy to get to. It's not too far of a drive for my two buddies and I. And we met up there, and everything was really smooth. The lift, there was no problems there. Because it was a rainy day, it was pretty empty. So for us, it was nice. One, because we were new, so there weren't people kind of trying to get around us that we were holding up. And we weren't even if we went on the wrong trails for us, a little bit too advanced, it still worked out really well. However, the rain did cause problems because it made things very slippery. So the one thing I will say is that if you're gonna do this and you're brand new, you haven't been on a bike in a while, maybe you haven't been biking, but you haven't been downhilling. If you want to go hard, if you want to try to jump, and if you want to try going up those walls, be ready to fall. I was kind of prepared to fall. I didn't know how much I was going to fall or how much it was going to hurt. I took some pretty big spills here. So on this part, we're still on the easy trails. We did about 3 easy trails before we decided to kind of switch it up. The easy trails, the blue, or not the blue, the green circles. You have a couple different options. You don't have a lot of options though. So I think you can definitely go there and keep doing the same ones, but you can try different obstacles that they have there, from jumps to the walls to different stuff. And from the easy trails, you can actually see some of the really advanced trails, the park trails, that have huge drops and huge jumps. So that was pretty cool to be able to see that. Definitely did not go on those trails. Those black diamonds we definitely didn't go on.
Turning radius.
But it was such a good time. I can definitely recommend this, even if you're new. I mean, as long as you can bike, as long as you can balance, as long as it's something that you're into, I think you'll have a lot of fun. I would try to avoid a rainy day if you're new though, because that's what made this trip a little bit rough. So I guess with all the nice things that I've been saying, there is one problem that I had, is that when you're here, being beginners, we fell a few times. I'm sure a lot of other people do. I'm sure most people do, especially if it's on a rainy day. So these bikes that we had, they were a little bit beat up. I mean, you could see on them, they were scratched up and everything. Everything about them, even mine. The indicator that told me which gear I was on was broken. But I had the most problems because with my bike, my chain actually fell off 3 times. For me, it was really no big deal. My buddies stopped with me and they helped me. They kind of pulled down the derailleur and I put the chain back on and spun it around and we kept going. Luckily, nothing happened while I was actually pedaling hard. I didn't fall off the bike because of it. It was more of, I don't know if it was the equipment that was on there, because these are really nice. They're Scott Gamblers, I think they're called. Really nice bikes, but for some reason, after hitting really bumpy areas, like really crazy areas, I'd stop and I'd look down and my chain would be off, and it happened 3 times, so that's a little bit of an issue for me. So I guess it's kind of hit or miss. I was riding a large size bike. My 2 buddies were riding medium sized bikes. They had absolutely no problems with their chains. They weren't missing that piece that told them what gear they were in, so they were okay.
That way, we think? We don't know.
So at this point, we actually, took a different trail. We went to towards the back of the mountain, and then over to the left side. If you're looking at the mountain, the left side of the mountain didn't really have any easy trails, and what we realized once we got there that they're all
yeah,
what they
that's
call
not a-
technical trails. So they weren't park trails with regular jumps and things like that. Here you're going to see that it gets really rocky, and it gets very technical. So the terrain that you're going over is a lot harder. Your balance has to be really good. And this is where, being new to this, it was a lot of fun, but it took out a lot of energy. And once you start getting tired, we realized that balancing was actually pretty hard. But this trail that we went down was actually not bad getting into the back, and it was a really nice view because we're going to come up on a lake over here, which was super nice to see. Really nice. We stopped for a few minutes and kind of took a look before moving on to another trail. You guys can check this out for a minute before we hit that trail.
I don't know. I'm gonna go scope it out.
Alright guys, so for us, we're about to hit what they call the Hudson Trail. You can see above it, it says Diamond, but it splits right up here. We definitely weren't going down the Diamond, we were going down Hudson Trail, which is a blue square. But this was the first really technical area, which really took a lot out of us. So you're going to see here, we're already going to have some problems. So over to the right is where the Diamond is. To the left is where we're going on the blue, but you can see already right here, we have a really steep rock area, and I just fell over. This one I just kind of tipped because you know, we were kind of looking to see what was there. We haven't been down these trails, and this camera angle doesn't really give you the full view of how steep these are. It looks pretty, you know, pretty weak, like why aren't these guys just going down this? But a lot of these areas are really steep, and also remember that it was raining, so a lot of this was extremely slippery. And the other thing that we learned, if you guys, if this is your first time, that if you're going, the more you stop, the more problems you're gonna have. I mean, you kind of need to just go for it. As soon as you stop, you start thinking about it, and when you start thinking about it, it's hard to get yourself going. You need to have enough speed, especially on these really rocky areas. You need to just keep it going, otherwise you're gonna lose your balance. It's gonna be hard to start going. So you can see here, I stopped. He stopped because he had a problem. That's my buddy in front of me. And to start it back up, it was actually quite complicated.
Now here we go. Oh.
So here I go, and you can see I'm actually having some problems getting it going, and I'm going really slow, and there's probably parts where I'm putting my foot down. You can also see how wet the rocks are, and those rocks, when they're wet, they were very slippery. You're going to actually see on the next run where I took a pretty big fall. But make sure you guys keep watching, because near the end, you're going to see a special little guy on the side of the trail that was racing me, and it's actually kind of funny. So make sure you watch this whole thing through, because that's one of the funniest parts, especially since we were so exhausted by that point. You know, I'll talk a little bit more about it when I get there, but I just saw him and I was like, I don't even care, I'm just gonna keep going. So that's my other buddy coming down. So now here we go again. You can see how much rockier this is than those green trails, because the green trails they're not smooth, they're bumpy, but they're not rocky. So this is where it hits. So you come back out on kind of this main area. This part was actually really funny because we're like, oh, this is gonna be smooth. This is kind of like the main, you know, to get from trail to trail. And right up here, all of a sudden there was this huge ditch while we were moving right here. So I leaned back. I definitely, you know, had a lot of weight in the back, so I didn't flip over my handlebars or anything. And I was so far back, and the bike hit so hard that my butt actually hit the back tire. I was like, oh man, and my buddy came down behind me. I was like, man, I hit that bump so hard, my butt hit the back tire. He's like, me too. So, I mean, we were all trying to do the same thing. You know, you don't want to flip over the handlebars, but we weren't ready for how big that bump was coming out of nowhere. So here we are. You can see how technical this is, and what you don't realize that when you're watching these guys, especially guys that are so good at downhill mountain biking and do it all the time, is how much energy this takes out. You think, okay, I'm going downhill, I don't have to do anything except balance, but this took a and there I go, I tipped over again.
Stuck on a branch.
So just so you guys know, again, we probably didn't belong on these trails, but this was a good day for us to be on them, because like I said, there was almost nobody at the mountain. You know, by by noon, maybe like 1, there's a lot more people. By that time, some things had dried out. The sun was coming out, it rained on and off, but by then there were some really good people there. We made sure to stay out of their way. But for those people that have been there before, and you're like, oh, these guys are on this trail, they're probably getting in other people's way. Just so you know, when we were going down, just as an example, when we got in the lift, there was nobody at the lift. We never waited in line. There was nobody in front of us, nobody behind us. That's how empty this was basically the entire day, right up until the end. And at the end, we were only riding the green trails anyway. So here you'll see just more of the technical pieces, the rocks, the bridges, and you know, this was really fun. And this was the first one that kind of took a lot of energy out of us, but we were still kind of hugged up like, hey, you know, we thought we did okay. So this kicked back into a green trail. This is a really bad camera angle. I was not happy with how my GoPro is mounted. You can get a little bit of air jumping onto that bridge there. This part's actually really funny. So this is the easy way down, and it goes back and forth, but we don't realize that you can get so much speed on this trail. And there was one area where you could see that there was so many trails that went off the track, and you'll see I'll actually do it right here, right there. I just went off, and that happened multiple times coming down here. I think this is the only time that I have it in this video, but I thought it was funny because you can actually get a lot of speed, and if you're not paying attention, if you're not really leaning into it, you know, it gets tough to stay on this trail. But a lot of fun. So this is all the way at the bottom, but we're back on a green, and you know, we're getting our energy back now after going down that blue, and we are going to go back up, and we're going to hit another blue trail, which right from the beginning turned out bad and basically wiped out our energy level for the rest of the day. But you guys will see how that goes. Alright, so here there was a couple little drops. This is my buddies going off the medium ones. You kind of learn to do different drops. They have one that basically you ride over, a medium one that may be like a foot high, and then a larger one that's 2 feet. All the way on the right you can see one that was probably about 8 feet. We saw people doing that. We did not attempt that. By the time we would have ever wanted to attempt that, we were exhausted. Alright, so we're back at the top of the mountain, and what we're doing is that we're hitting up a trail called Bushwhack. So as we go down here, it's funny because we look and we're like, hey, there's only diamonds down here. It said that it was blue, but you kind of had to go up and around, and you'll see over on the left. So behind us to the left was a black, up to the right was a black, but we're going down the blue. So the name of this was Bushwhack, and it started off okay, but then immediately we got into some rocks where I tried hitting the brakes to slow down, which we're going to see in a minute, and you're going to see what happened to me. Well, you're not going to see me, but you're going to see the bike. And that's where I hit the brakes, and my bike just slammed down. And you're going to hear me laughing because it hurt pretty bad. But my buddy was coming up behind me, and he thought he was just going to ride around me. But then I saw him kind of tap the brake because he didn't know where to go at that point. And his bike just went down, started sliding into me. And he didn't want to fall into me and into my bike. So he actually jumped, but he was backwards at that point. So he jumped about 5 feet back onto his back. So we were both cracking up, and we were both in a little bit of pain. But, you know, we had to keep it going. But that kind of set the tone for this whole trail. So now you can see, once again, the rocks are very wet. And at this point, you know, we're looking at this on the to the left of him, if you're looking at it this way, but when you're going down, it's on the right. That's actually kind of a drop that somebody who is good at downhill mountain biking would jump off of. We tried going down that other area, my other buddy's sneaking up to the right. So we were like, okay, that was pretty tough. So this is the continuation of Bushwhack. There's some rocks here. We're just going really slow at this point because it's very technical for us. And I know for other people, it's only the blue square. But for somebody who's never downhill biked before, definitely never been on technical trails like this, some of this was pretty tough. So here we are, you guys can see us still going down, and you know, there's little areas where you kind of stop and you can take a break, but we got on a trail that was just so long and just so technical. It was crazy. So you can see us going down here. We're having a good time. It's pretty rocky. It doesn't look too bad in the video. When I look at it now, I'm like, oh, it wasn't as bad as I thought when I was there. But when I was there, when you are just drained, it was just exhausting. And it was like every time when we thought, hey, I got some speed up, all of a sudden there'd be a new pretty big technical piece to it, and it would kind of make you stop, and then we'd be like, oh man, we shouldn't have stopped, because that's what caused problems. It's hard to get going again. So you'll see me cut the video here because I don't want to show you a lot of the boring stuff where we had to stop and kind of, you know, we were putting our feet down to get ourselves over things. So it was really good experience. But if I go back, I'm definitely going to stay on the greens a little bit more, and then understand which of the blues are a little bit better to stick with than some of the really technical ones. So I'm going to get the name of the one technical trail for you guys. Alright guys, so I just went back and checked out the trail map, and so we went down, like I said, Bushwhack, and then where we wanted to get to was Bluephoria. So this trail goes all the way, if you're looking at the mountain, it's all the way to the left. When you're going down, it's all the way to the right, and it was a blue. We thought, hey, you want to know what? This is probably the longest trail because it goes all the way out and back. It's only a blue. We're going to have a good time, not realizing that it's a very technical blue, which is a different story from the blue on the other side. And we should have known that from what you had just watched was us going down Outlaw onto Hudson River, and then at the bottom of that we actually hit Waterboy before we got back onto the lower Greenhorn, which was that easy way at the end. So those were the trails previously. Now we're going into that Bushwhack, which you saw, and then over to Bluephoria, which is the one that just wiped us out. It was an extremely long trail. It's from Bluephoria, then goes into lower DMLH, which then lands down around Candyland at the bottom, not the giant drop. It's below the drop area, which I believe they call the cabin drop. That drop was huge. There's no way we went anywhere near that, obviously. But we came down at the bottom of Candyland all the way down back to the bottom. So you're gonna see here that we're just we're getting through what we can. This area doesn't look too bad. A lot of the really bad areas I kind of cut out of the video because they're not worth watching. But know that you should be ready. A lot of energy. A lot of water. I haven't mentioned that yet, but bring a lot of water with you, and just be ready to go, because these rocks, you can't really see the angles here, and I have a whole new appreciation watching you guys that are doing some crazy things on this mountain in videos that I've seen on YouTube, because this is completely insane. And it's not even like it really hurt my muscles or anything. I was just exhausted. So I'm gonna let you guys just watch some more of this, and pretty soon we're gonna be coming out near the bottom of Candyland, which is where there was a little guy on the right side that was racing me. So I'm gonna come back so we can chat about that.
I derail. Woo. Oh, it's bumpy.
Fuck you! Are you serious?
Get it, get it. Yeah. No.
Nice.
I should have. You wanna know what? I'm gonna give him some space.
Here's my buddy, and he takes
okay?
a spill.
I
So I wasn't the only one falling. I didn't catch a lot of the falls on tape, and the ones that I had, I didn't put too many up. But I had to show that one of my buddies. You can just see that we're so tired. He kind of ran around that turn and just kind of toppled over. Then I came down around him, and this was like a small fall for me, but it hurt so bad. But now, I do not condone this. You should not take off your helmet while coming down this mountain. You will see my buddy's face here. This is what we all look like. We were all just
I need a break
wiped
after
out
this.
at this point. So you can see him. He's just kind
You
of
guys
walking
don't
it
take a
down.
break,
You can see how tired we all are. And this is now near the bottom. So this is kind of the fun part near the end of this video. So we're kind of cruising down this bridge. I'm coming around. Keep watching. So what we're gonna do is, as we come out in the open, over on the right side, you're gonna watch to see a little buddy come out of the woods. And make sure you watch, because it's gonna be quick. He's actually really quick, but there is a turkey vulture racing me right there. So at this point, this is actually the second time I saw a turkey vulture. The first one was actually on the trail, and I actually had to stop as he kind of got off. This one was racing me down the hill, which was kind of funny. I was kind of laughing because at this point I was so tired. I was like, you want to know what? I hope that thing stays over on the right side, because I'm just going to speed past him. I'm not stopping right now. There's no way I'm stopping. The only way I would have stopped is that if he actually came in front of me. So when we got to the bottom, we were all pretty tired. We said, okay, what do we want to do? We were thinking about almost stopping. We said, let's get up there. Let's get back on those greens. Let's see what we can do. You'll see I'm so tired though. I'm completely avoiding all these walls. Just kind of cruising. I try to get a little bit of air on these. It was fun, you know, just kind of getting some speed. And to be honest, the top of this trail is a lot of fun. It's very smooth, very easy to kind of go over, especially if you don't want to do jumps. You can just kind of ride over those. Like you saw, if you don't want to hit those walls, you can kind of go around them. Build some bridges that you get to hit. But after you get to that halfway point, once you kind of get further down, even though there's not a lot of obstacles like rocks and things like that, it gets very bumpy. Like the ground is just really bumpy and really hard. So it was just at that point, the front end shaking so much. I mean, it was just beating up my hands pretty good. So another note there is that I had to get gloves. My buddy bought gloves also. My other one had brought some. My other buddy had brought some. But I actually had a huge blister on my one thumb because of the way that it was rubbing, and the palms of my hands from gripping and bouncing and everything were just getting ripped up. So I went in, and luckily they have a store there that has everything that you can get. So I bought a pair of nice gloves. So now when I get my regular Trek Marlin 7, hopefully soon, and I'm not really on anything even close to any of this, I'll still have some pretty cool gloves to wear. But to be honest, we are planning on going back. So you'll see here, we actually went back up the mountain twice, just to go down 2 more times, because, you know, those green trails were really nice. It's just that this bumpy part right here, you can see some of the video footage here, it got kind of crazy because of how bumpy it was, that it just beat up my hands, and eventually that kind of just took a toll on me. Plus those technical trails just beat me up pretty good.
Yeah.
So you'll see some video footage here, just of us going down, nothing too crazy, just a lot of fun. So overall, for a guy or a girl that, you know, hasn't biked in a while but wants to get out there, wants to do something fun, as long as it's something you really want to do, I definitely suggest checking out. I do suggest staying on those green circles for more than just 2 or 3 runs before hitting some of those crazier technical trails. Over on this side where it's like the park trails or whatever they call them, the flow trails, I'm not sure exactly what they name them here. But Outlaw, Dumbo, I think it is. We went down those, and those weren't too bad, and that's why we're like, oh, you know, these blues really aren't too bad. We're just gonna, you know, get into it on the backside. But it didn't work out too well over on that other side of the mountain. So another note here is that my GoPro, I was renting a helmet there. I wish I just brought my ATV helmet because I have a mount on there that would have been way better. I had ordered a chest mount for it, which hadn't come in time. So I don't like a lot of this footage. This is really the best that I have. Basically, I had a handlebar mount that I put on there. It was moving around a lot. So to give you an example of how bumpy it really was, is that I had that movable mount that you can kind of position so that when the mount is a little bit sideways, you just push it over the side. It's like a ball joint, and it's really strong, so it usually holds. So I use that on my helmet when I'm on my ATV. I've never had a problem with that ball joint moving. On these trails, we were hitting it so hard, like these bumps that my camera kept moving everywhere. And the footage, even though, I mean, this is a GoPro Hero Black 8 with the smooth settings on, and it's still, I mean, it's still bouncy, it's shaky, it's hard to see, and no fault of GoPro. I mean, this was just, this was so bumpy also. I mean, my whole head was shaking that I couldn't physically see. Clearly, it was like my head was moving so much that in certain areas that everything was like blurry, but it was a lot of fun. One of those things that could give you a headache. So at the end, you know, we had to go get some food. We were exhausted. We were out in Sussex, New Jersey, so this was a place that we found that was just really close. You know, we just sat down, got a little bit to eat. Obviously, everything with COVID. Oh, at the mountain with COVID also, you have to wear your mask all the time when not on the trails. That means when you're getting onto the lift, you need it also. So this is just us relaxing. I hope you guys like this video. I hope you like the review from a little bit of a different perspective than you normally see on YouTube. And make sure you guys subscribe. I'm gonna have more content, more mountain bike content, more ATV content, a little bit of everything. So you know I'm into computers and things too. So hit that subscribe button, and I hope to see you guys soon.